Right, good morning. My name's Electric Johnny Hat. I hope you're all well. It is Tuesday the 14th today. Yeah, Tuesday the 14th, and it's 5 to 11, just coming up to 11 o'clock. I hope you're all well. Well, I'm going to do a talk on the underground cities today and the mishaps that seem to be going on. If you've done your research, you will work out that Maui in Hawaii got burnt down, Los Angeles has just got burnt down, and we're going to talk about the underground cities of Los Angeles, which are underneath Los Angeles, that many people have talked about before, but some people may not have heard about this stuff. I also think there's a lot of people that have put out misinformation to do with the mud floods. So basically all they've done is they've thrown out a 20% of the underground cities and how they were. But to me, there's 80% missing. So there's a lot of misinformation that was put out about mud floods. So we're not going to go down them lines today. We're going to go down the common sense way, because the flat earthers, and we're just trying to backtrack over what they've done. Do you know what I mean? Because the flat earthers have put so much misinformation out. They jump on the flat earth and then to the audience, they spread out all this other misinformation to other people, expecting them to swallow this up too. So we're going to go over and correct what they have all done and messed up on. Do you know what I mean? So that's what we're going to do today. Right, so yeah, there's other places that have actually been burnt down as well. So why are these fires going on? Why did they happen in Maui, Hawaii, and why did they happen recently in Los Angeles? It wouldn't be something to do with underground cities, would it? And stopping all people having all access to that and destroying the main tunnels, alleyways and shafts that are underneath that are leading down to these underground cities. They're not shafts that have been built from our surface. These are basically underground cities that are just there. They've always been there from the past civilizations, and obviously we've got our new generation of civilization that comes out now, and then we people do the excavating or digging up and finding these certain places. But obviously it's all hush hush. They can give you like a 20%, but they won't give you the full 100% of what's really going on, and how the elites have been using these underground cities, which they have. And we hear more and more and more. If people have done their research, or people have been sitting up and paying attention, you will realise that. Right, but before we start, I just want to play this. It's back to Rupert Spires. It's not related whatsoever of what we're doing today, but it's Rupert Spires, because I do love consciousness and talking about consciousness. And we're going to talk about, the next time we come on, I want to talk about more about consciousness and the more information that I found. Trying to work out what consciousness is, which is not really an easy thing to do. We can only, I guess, go by what we experience as on our own perception of how the consciousness is actually being used for us. Because remember, the consciousness is the light in your eyes. That's it. It's the spark. We have a dead body here, really, which we will lose when we disappear, obviously, once our life is finished, or in this reality. But we have a consciousness via the light. And what is consciousness really, or what we can try and perceive to be what consciousness is the light in the eyes. It's the shine. This body is nothing without the shine of light, the consciousness that's been put into us. Yeah, so Rupert Spires, which I've always found really, really amazing. Such an intelligent guy, and he's just super calm, which he's probably learnt through his own consciousness of how to do that. So I'm just going to play this. It only runs for about 50 seconds, but just gives you a little introduction of the next time we come on and start talking about consciousness again. And I say trying to work it out. No, that's never going to be worked out. But, we can try and get an understanding through our own perceptions of what the consciousness is that we all hold, or that's been given to us,
Activity of your own nature has given us a hint. When you fall asleep at night, the activity of your own mind appears as a physical world from the perspective of a separate subject of experience in that world. Now just go up one level and consider that what appears to us as a physical world is the activity of a universal mind or consciousness, whose nature is consciousness, not matter. But it only appears as physical matter when perceived through the sense perceptions of a separate subject of experience within that world. Nature has given...
Yeah, the amazing Rupert Spires. But we're not talking about consciousness today. I just wanted to play that. I always like to play some kind of intro before I start talking about a certain subject. But that's not in no way related to what we're doing today, because we're talking about underground cities and through the Hawaii cities that were burnt down, that we all know about, and now Los Angeles, and we had other places like Seattle in the past as well that's done it, and pretty much a lot of places all around the world that have done the same thing, where things have either been cities have been carpet bombed or completely destroyed. I mean, if you look at the carpet bombs back in the 1920s, 1930s, they were just done with normal airplanes, Spitfires, whatever, dropping bombs. Not so much, not so much Spitfires, but old aeroplanes that were just doing sort of carpet bombing cities and stuff like that. But now they have new technology and they sort of burn things down completely. But I believe it's all done for a reason, and that's for one, to hide the civilization underneath, and also hiding all entrances to the underground cities. So remember, it's just basically a layer. We live on the surface, a layer. But underneath that layer is actually a whole city. So Los Angeles, Maui, Hawaii, Seattle, and many, many other places as well. So we live on the surface. We live up here on the surface. But underneath, there's a whole city. So you imagine just going down a staircase, say 100 metres, and then just walking through a whole city. But this whole city now has got a lid on it, which is the surface, which is where we live. So if they do these fires and they can burn down all entrances to this, apart from, I think they were leaving maybe a street or two in certain locations so the elites could still use them. But the rest has all been burnt down because people were digging and finding these underground cities, and the authorities don't want people doing that. And we were going to talk about it in the talk in a minute. But first, I just want to play about the underground city in Turkey. Now, Mike Tyson used, this isn't about, I tried to find the talk of Mike Tyson talking about the the Turkey underground cities, which are still there today. They've been untouched. Like a lot of these underground cities are not allowed to be touched. They're not allowed to be touched at all. And they're not even really allowed to be, the public are not really allowed to know that they're there. But the information that we do know, we only get the 20%. We don't get the whole 100%. So there's 80% missing of what's actually been going on. But, if you use your common sense, and we can see the places like Hawaii, now Los Angeles, and other sort of places all around the world, Seattle, wherever, have all experienced the same kind of thing. This history repeating in the way that the powers are just destroying all ancient civilizations or all entrances so we cannot go anywhere near them. And even architectures now that archaeological people that are actually digging down and accidentally finding, like 100 metres, and accidentally finding these cities that are underneath. And then all construction has to stop. No, the authorities say, no, stop, move away from it. You're not allowed near it. And then they cut it all off, shut it all off. And it's certain places or institutions that take over. And you'll know where they are. We all know who they are. Do you know what I mean? So just want to play this, a little short video about the underground cities in Turkey.
In history, and has been home to the many civilizations that passed through this area over the last 3,000 years. They've all left their mark up here on the surface, but also underground. During a restoration project to Midyat's older...
So it's like, it's like an iceberg, isn't it? We saw the top, you look in the ocean, and you've got a tiny bit of the iceberg at the top. But underneath, it's a huge iceberg that runs all the way down. So you can just imagine we live on the surface of that tiny bit there, but underneath is the iceberg that goes down. The whole civilization of the old civilization of old cities that are actually underneath, that we don't even get to see. We see a top part of it. Like allegedly, people were saying about the pyramids, and why we only see the top of that pyramid is because it's actually the top of an ancient civilization or an ancient structure that goes down much further. Speculation only, that was. Assumptions through other people that I've heard people talking about. Excuse me.
buildings back in 2020, someone from the team discovered a doorway that leads to one of these caves. The more they dug, the more they found.
Yes.
These underground spaces underneath each house were known to people, and they were using it for storage because it's quite cold. But what they didn't know is that they were all connected.
Absolutely.
And what an incredible sight.
Absolutely.
I happily got lost in this network of caves, thought to be at least 1900 years old.
But this network of caves is basically a network of an underground city that probably joins up from one city to the next city to the next city. Just like, you know, what we have today. You know, we have certain cities and part of places that are just built onto others. So if you look at, say, central London, we have, I said before, we have the City of London here. This is the surface. We have the City of London, and you go forward, and then it comes into Covent Garden. And then that comes forward and comes into Leicester Square. That comes forward into Soho. That goes forward into Hyde Park. That goes forward into Victoria. You understand? So basically, you just imagine like the surface of what we have here in central London. That is basically what's underneath as well. But we're on the surface. So we're on the surface, and underneath is a whole civilization. Obviously, the people are not there anymore, not that we know of. But the whole civilization of city is actually underneath. Do you know what I mean? Which it's all out of bounds when people are found that they're not allowed to. And like I say, a lot of these institutions will put a stop to it, and they take over. And they either destroy the stuff, or they just completely cover it up, so to speak. And I'm not talking about a mud flood. This is just the next our civilization that sits on top of the underground civilization. Just like the hourglass. Turn the hourglass, the old civilization gets pushed down, the new civilization comes on top through our new civilization of people, the new generation of people.
And estimated to once being inhabited by up to 70,000 people. Do you know what? A lot of this is quite weathered now, but you can see there's like clear stairs and paths into different rooms. It's thousands of years old. You know what I'm fascinated by is that this stone, solid, but look, it's soft at the same time. I said, do that.
Yeah, because it was limestone, wasn't it? Limestone and sandstone. That's why it was all soft. The ancient used that. Even though there was using some kind of metalwork frames for the construction, but a lot of the stuff, as we know, going back quite far, a few hundred years ago, even a lot longer than that, that they were just using sandstone and limestone and just not really having anything like some kind of metalwork inside. But there was some parts of civilization that actually were. Right, so I want to talk about, obviously, I mentioned Starbucks and the underground cities. Now, where does Starbucks actually come into this? And the Starbucks is basically some secret locations of Starbucks. Well, some Starbucks will have a secret location of an underground tunnel that will take you into these cities, underground cities. And certain film stars, movie stars, whatever, were actually using these and probably still use them to this day. But you've got to think about how long they've actually been using these, and how long has it actually been shunned from the public? Because it's been shunned for a long time. We're just getting to know about all this stuff now. It's like, whether you can put it down to the awakening, you know, the conscious is getting stronger, and we started to join up onto a collective consciousness as we all yet evolve through our own mind and our own mindsets. So, right, so I'm just going to read this out. It's only a few pages. So there are these secret Starbucks that are above the reserve. Starbucks that no one's heard of before. You ever wonder why driving through Los Angeles that you never see many movie stars stuck in traffic on the 405? You will never see these 1%. Because obviously we're the 5%, and they say that the movie stars and that the celebrities are up top, which are the 1%. So you never see the 1%. This is because they are intricate. Because these are intricate tunnels underneath Los Angeles, known as the Autobahn. They get access points, so they get to move through the cities without being stuck in traffic. You ever wonder why you don't see a lot of movie stars stuck in traffic? Because they're using other ways of moving around through the underground cities, because they don't need to, or why should they have to walk through, or, you know, go on the surface of where we are, when they can use underground tunnels or underground entrances, and, you know, to take it from one side to the other. And that goes back to the you know, the last civilization that were building underground train things, and like underground train tracks, underground systems, which basically were just being found by us. And then the authorities make out that they're the ones that made these and put these together. And they say it took us 20 years to build this. No, it took 20 years to uncover it and remove all the debris away from it, so they can resurface these things and start using them again. And we hear about this all the time. Again, only if you've done your research, you would know about this kind of thing anyway. So intricate tunnels underneath Los Angeles, known as the Autobahn. They get access points, so they get to move through the cities without being stuck in traffic. You can come up in LAX, pop into Dodger Stadium underneath there in the tunnels in Starbucks, which is set up in different locations to allow them to get their coffee in a certain Starbucks, and then obviously go underneath into the secret tunnels that will take you down into the underground civilization, or what is left of the underground cities itself. So Starbucks seems to be, God knows when people find out about all this properly, what are they going to do? Shut them down? It doesn't matter. They'd only use some other way and means of getting to these underground cities anyway. Absolutely. So whilst driving, names like Seinfeld, Oprah, Bono, ordering a certain coffee which they don't have to pay for, because they're going in there for a certain reason, to get access to go down to the underground cities. So what they are, they're not, what are they? They're not shafts, or they're shafts and tunnels, but they're not built as shafts and tunnels. Like I said, they're underground cities. So we're the surface, we're on top, and we have our own cities on top, the surface. But underneath, it makes out like you're going into tunnels and people have been digging down. But these things underneath is an underground city, so that's always been there. So all people are doing is going to these movie stars or whatever, and it sounds like way out stuff. Of course it does. You have to do your own research on this. But they would go into certain Starbucks, and then they would go down into an underground sort of door, whatever, into a secret location that will take you like 100 meters down into the underground city itself. Whether it's Turkey, Los Angeles, or the Maui that's just been burnt down. But obviously we know that Los Angeles has just been burnt down as well, a part of Los Angeles. So Seinfeld, Oprah, Bono ordering a certain coffee, which they don't have to pay for. Now there have been underground cities left over from the ancients, and now here being covered by our current civilization, which is us. But the underground cities linked from one tunnel to the next. Like I just explained, from like you know, in central London, from the City of London moving into Covent Garden, into Soho, and blah blah blah, going along. It's just one big thing that's joined from one to the next. And the underground cities are no different, because exactly what they are, cities. Take away the underground, it's just the main city of what was there before, and obviously stuff's been built on top, but not under a mud flood. The flat earthers made out that the authorities were making mud floods to cover this, but no, I think that's another reason. I don't think it's got nothing to do with that at all. Things have just been our civilization's just been built on top of the old civilization, maybe to hide it. Do you know what I mean? But no mud flood, I don't believe no mud flood has actually been put into practice of how it was done in that kind of way. I don't believe that at all. No, I think that's misinformation. So ancients are now have been covered by our current civilization, but the underground cities are linked from one tunnel to the next. Now just imagine a whole functional city underneath our civilization. A whole functional city. Now even though the people ain't there, the civilization of people ain't there no more, because obviously they're all past, they died. But everything underneath has been left intact. Just imagine. Do you imagine going down 100 meters and walking through a whole underground city that is still immaculate? Just imagine that. And they still exist today. They're still there. Covered by the current civilization. The underground cities are linked from one tunnel to the next. Just imagine a whole functional city underneath our civilization. but has no full access to the which is now has all full access to the elites at any time through a secret location, which is what they've done. So like I say, whether it's Los Angeles or Maui or Seattle or other places, they've burnt the surface down, but they will still leave a secret location, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, secret location, so the elites can still use them. Where everything else has just been burnt down for us. Remember, it's one big show. It's just a game. It's a big show. Everything gets hidden, and we only get to see and hear about what they want us to. Everything that's been said to the other day, everything that's been pushed forward has been pushed forward by the elites. So everything you hear in social media has been pushed forward by the elites themselves, or the powers, to give us a false rouge of, and this be a good time to say that, when I done the talk about the drones, I suppose I was a bit high rate when I talked about that. But people just don't seem to understand that when the media and social media and all other media stations, whatever, they put out a certain thing. Well, we're gonna put out all these drones and alien spaceships, and we're gonna have all that going on so the public can see that what's going on. People can start researching that stuff. But back over there, what was actually going on? Now, I said about this the other day, but what? So when the authorities have got everybody stuck on the drones madness and all that, what was actually going on over here? They already planned to burn down Los Angeles, didn't they? Told you, everything for a reason, everything for a rouge to keep us, our eyes and mindset away from what's really going on over there. So we push stuff out over here, and we hide what's actually going on over here. And now it's all become clear what they was actually doing was starting off and building up the fires to burn down Los Angeles. A lot of people lost their homes, including movie stars, film stars, movie stars, whatever. But has had full access for the elites at any time, but in a secret location. Maybe these were deliberately covered for a reason. A pact that is passed down through generations. This is just me speculating. Passed down through civilizations through hundreds and hundreds of years. So, these secret locations, these secret underground places have been deliberately hidden so we don't get to know about them. But imagine if it was just every single civilization or generation that were actually stuck to a pact, like an elite pact, to keep hiding this. So even the next generation that's coming forward now, obviously I'm in my 50s now, but the next generation that comes will be my daughter's generation, because my daughter's 30 now. So even then people will get to hide all this stuff for the new generation, like my daughter's generation or your daughter's generation. Every past civilizations did it in the same possible way, going back hundreds of years. So that's what I'm saying, like every civilization has probably stuck to a pact, the elite's pact, to keep hiding this stuff and keep this underground so no one ever gets to know about it. And why? So they can keep using it without our knowledge. So everything is done literally underground. Not even so to speak, it's actually literally underground what they're doing. So secret cities have been literally hidden by these generations and the next generation. And we only get to hear about the ones that is on top, the surface, which is our civilization. This is us now, our civilization, on top of the surface, because we live on top of the surface. But underneath is the ancient civilizations that are still there, that have still been hidden. But the elites are using these. And how long have they been using these? I reckon going back as far as the 1920s or even the 1900s. But before then was the previous civilization or the previous generation that were using these also. So you say, let's go by, say, like the older Rothschilds that obviously passed away now. This is just for an example, like the older Rothschilds. So when they die, they've got their sons, their daughters, and then it gets passed on to them also after. So it just carries on through hundreds and hundreds of years, through generations and civilizations, through the elites. And the next generation. So covered, right, so, and we only get to hear about like I say, the top surface, which is what we are now. All we know about our civilization is the one that's actually on the surface, and that is us. It really is just us. So just imagine on the hourglass. I said before about the hourglass. You turn the hourglass, and then the next civilization gets pushed down, and the new civilization is actually on top. And every civilization, every generation, it gets to get turned again. The hourglass pushing down even further. So is there just one civilization or one generation underneath us, like i.e. city, or is there even more underneath that just got pushed down through the hourglass system? So the hourglass that has been turned through civilizations. And now to think about the mud flooded theory, that is about a 20% that was actually pushed forward. So they pushed forward this ruse, this misinformation about mud floods. And so it's like we always hear about. We only get the 20% of the truth. Even in mainstream, you may get the 20% of the truth. But in order to find out about the full 100% or the rest of the 80% that's missing, we have to do our own research ourselves. And that's the only way. Otherwise, we don't get to know about it. So now thinking about the mud flooded theory is about 20% proof, but the other 8% is the actual factual story that is underneath, just like I said about the iceberg. Underneath we get to see the top of the iceberg, but underneath the iceberg, there's a lot of the iceberg underneath. The ancient civilization, the previous civilization that was underneath. We're just the top part of the new civilization generation that's on top, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So the 80% that's missing, which is actually the actual factual story of the underground cities. Now, the tunnels and shafts are just the functional city underneath. Just imagine a blanket of our civilization. So I'm just going over again what I've just been saying. Just imagine the old civilization, the old city, a huge city underneath that goes for miles and miles, could be hundreds of miles. One city joined onto another, to another, to another. But that's underneath. And then imagine the new civilization of elites that come along and throw this blanket, literally throw this blanket over the top of the old civilization to cover the old civilization. So now the old civilization has been covered. Not for a mud flood, but just literally been covered by the new city that goes on top. Why would we ever think about there's going to be another city underneath? We've only just really found out about this over the last 5 to 10 years. Maybe a bit longer. Depends how long you've been doing your research, I guess. Yeah, so the sites on top, so we're just the sites, the civilization, the generation on top. If you remove that blanket, so to speak, then you will see the functional, untouched city that is sitting underneath, and is still there to this day. Now for 20 years, so for, right, now 20 years, no, actually, now 20 years ago, a mining operation for an engineer guy by the name of George Shufford, which they asked him to go and look for oil, gold and other precious minerals around Los Angeles. And on his discovery, George's discovery, he realised that there was through his mining and constructions were well out of place. So he was doing his mining, searching for different minerals, just like, you know, people do today. Get paid to dig up, to collect minerals and stuff like that, whether it's gold, oil, whatever, and other precious stuff. Now, when George was actually doing all this, doing his mining, George Shufford, he actually came across things that were out of place. A lot of stuff was just out of place, and he couldn't work out what it was. So he did more and more research on his own to go into this to find out what was actually going on. And what did he find? He found the underground cities. And then straight away, the authorities pulled him straight out. Said, George, no, come away from there. No, stop. No more mining. You have to stop all that now. We can't have you doing that no more. And then it stopped. It's voided. No one gets to touch it anymore. George Shufford was pulled away from it. George found the underground Los Angeles cities. Allegedly, the ones where, well, as we can see, Los Angeles has been burnt down at the surface, destroying all ways and entrances of getting to the underground city, because people doing their research now and they're finding out about this. Same as Maui. What do they find in Maui allegedly? Underground cities. So they burnt the surface down. They removed all the old bodies that were, you know, the old civilizations that were underneath. they took all them away, had to take away the bodies. And what were they finding, allegedly? Allegedly? Giant bones. Now, a lot of people talk about, you know, going back thousands and thousands of years, that there were giants on the you know, roaming the land. Whether there was or not, I don't know. I've got no way of saying, you know, telling you whether that's factual or not, I don't know. But we do keep hearing about giants in the past. Now, we're not talking about 50 years ago, 100 years ago, or even 200 years ago. We're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, through different civilizations, where everything back then used to be big. So in Maui, Hawaii, they burnt down the surface, and when they burnt down the surface, they removed all the dead bodies that were from underneath, including the allegedly giant bones. So George Shufford found it was all out of place, and then he found these underground cities under Los Angeles. He was finding these secret tunnels and shafts. So by his own work and knowledge, he managed to drew up a number of plans and diagrams of the underground city that was underneath Los Angeles. So he got the okay to start digging down, but to manage to go as far as 106 meters. As soon as he got to 106 meters is when he, with his mining, is when he started to find these underground cities in Los Angeles. And like I just said, the authorities pulled him away and they shut it all off. Void now, void. No one's ever going near that again now. Jules Shufford found it by accident. And the one that the elites have still been using to this day. Same as. So, are they burning down the surface just so they can put... So is it like killing two birds with one stone? They burn down the surface and then they put smart cities in. I'm sure they're doing it. Well, they're clearly doing that because that's the new technology of the next civilization anyway. That runs into the next civilization or next generation. Of smart cities, that's what they want. Full control. But what they're actually doing as well was destroying all ancient architecture as well. Or even the entrances for that to get down to there. So he managed to draw a number of plans, diagrams, underground city that was underneath Los Angeles. So he got the okay to start digging down to 106 meters that I just said, and of course the city on top was ours. And he was, like I said, he was stopped from mining and digging for more minerals. So it's funny, you know, they're wanting to find minerals and stuff like that, gold, oil, but as soon as he found the underground cities, pulled them away. Maybe get somebody else to do it after. It may be disturbed something, which was the reason why George stopped, because he found the cities, obviously, the underground city in Los Angeles. Now we have the same thing going on, or the same thing that did go on in Hawaii, which I just talked about there. Remember, they were finding underground cities, giant bones, and under Hawaii, and then all the don't know what I've written down there. Hawaii got, and then all the surface of Hawaii got burned down, like I just said there. And we just had a repeated of Los Angeles too. So I think it's right to assume, you know, from whether you're living in America, London, or any other country, especially the Middle East, because we hear about the Middle East of ancient Babylon, where all the ancient cities and structures are still underneath. The ancient cities are still underneath from ancient Babylon. That's the Middle East. So now we find them in Los Angeles. We find them in Hawaii. We find them in Seattle. So I think it's okay to assume that these underground cities, the level of the previous civilization underneath the surface of where we are, underneath, that they are all around the world. Not just in one country, but all around the world. I think it's right to assume that, I really do. So they burnt down, just like Hawaii got burnt down, and then recently, all aware of a part Los Angeles was burnt to the ground. So basically what I'm saying is Hawaii related to Los Angeles? Is Los Angeles, you know, related to Seattle and all the other ones to the Middle East as well? So all these major fires, you know, at the moment they're doing it so they're killing two birds with one stone to re-put in the smart cities for the new generation of people, which will be my daughter and other people's generations of other people's, you know, children that are still the next civilization or next generation. Is it all related? Well, absolutely, it's got to be related. It cannot be not related. It has to be related. It has to be. No matter what you think, these underground cities are there. All around the world, these underground cities are there. And people have just built on top to hide underneath. But it seems to be through that pact of the elites generations and, yeah, through the elites generations and family trees that they all pass it all down. Now, what are they doing down there? We don't know. We can assume, obviously, we all can assume what they're doing. And a lot of people have speculated what they're actually using these tunnels and that for. I'm not going to directly say it, but, you know, only because of certain platforms that I'm using at the moment. But, so I'm not going to say it directly, but I'm sure you're all aware of what they're using the tunnels and the ancient the ancient cities underneath for. Yeah, I'll leave that up to you guys. Can we assume that the underground cities are mainly places all around the world? Yes, like I said, i.e. Turkey, Turkey's underground city, which you know, I played a little video at the start there of the ancient underground cities in Turkey. Mike Tyson's obviously talked about them as well, and Mike Tyson said the people that were actually living in the ancient civilization underground cities were actually giants anyway. That was coming from Mike Tyson. That's not coming from me. That was coming from Mike Tyson. So where Turkey's underground cities are still also functional and no one's allowed to be touched. They're not allowed to be touched, so no one's allowed to go down there. Why are they closed to the public? Maybe like I just said, because the elites are running different operations still to this very day. Now, the rumours go that people like P. Diddy and many other celebrities like Epstein, and there's many others people, have been using these secret tunnels and locations and underground cities for a very long time. And we also know that, you know, P. Diddy was actually, his property with the underground tunnel, the underground city was joined up to the Playboy Mansion. Was joined up to Epstein Island. So they're all linked. Because I say, it's not just one city or one town, is it? It's from one side of the world. It seems to be from one side of the world to the other side of the world through different cities and locations, but underneath. Like I say, we're on the surface. We live on the surface. But underneath is the old civilizations, generation of civilizations where their buildings and structures are still there. The whole city are still underground. So secret locations, been hearing about of late, and these secret underground tunnels and shafts that are basically the ancient lost cities. Which so that part has actually been put into mainstream about the ancient lost cities, but we're not allowed to know anything about it. And we're certainly not allowed to know and understand that the elites have actually been using them. Because, you know, they say, oh no, they're close to the public, no one can go near them. But the elites are allowed to use them for whatever they're actually doing with them and what they're using them for. Like I said, you can, I'm not going to say it directly on here, you can do that yourself. So basically ancient lost cities that have been covered up by the mind and the actual physical matter itself. So mentally, it all gets covered up, and, you know, physically the matter, the building, the actual city itself is actually been hidden as well. So it's out of sight, completely out of sight, out of mind. From New York to Sacramento, I don't know if I said that right, from New York to Sacramento, and others being found, of course, Disney headquarters via the bathrooms. So a lot of these places and entrances, especially like P. Diddy's entrances, like the Playboy Mansions, were also joined up to the Disney headquarters and places like that, to certain bathrooms. Just like we're talking about today about Starbucks that have a secret location. You go to some Starbucks and these Starbucks will lead you down into the secret locations of the cities, but you can only go through certain ones. So via the bathrooms through the Disney headquarters. So entrances from the secret caves goes into Disney, and now underground cities into Seattle were also burned to the ground on the surface, like I was just saying just there. It's happened a lot, and it continues to go on. From Hawaii to now Los Angeles. Who would have thought they would have done Los Angeles? We keep hearing about the killing of America, the breaking down of America. Where did that come from? Because everybody over here, like I said, is concentrating on drones and everything else. Alien spaceships, drones. But like I said, over there, what was going on over there? What was going on over there? They were burning down and getting ready to burn down Los Angeles, and now it's burned down. Everybody lost their homes. How many people died? I don't know. Did people die? I don't know. You would have thought so, do you know what I mean? So entrances from the secret caves goes into Disney's headquarters and now underground cities into Seattle, were also burned down to the ground on the surface. Just like Maui in Hawaii and now Los Angeles. But now, I'm sure in the future there will be many, many more. But at least we have now got the knowledge and the understanding of what has actually been going on here. Call it the awakening, call it whatever. But we're all getting to know about this stuff now. For the people that want to research this stuff. But remember, like places like TikTok and YouTube and a lot of other places now, other social media, continuously throwing out rubbish for the audience. So now you don't get to research 1 or 2 or 3 things. You have to research 100 things. Unless you're quite knowledgeable and, quite clever, whatever, smart. And you can say, well, yeah, we don't believe in that bullshit. So we can now draw it down to like 10. And then we can go through them 10 things to try to get down to the actual truth. But constantly now it's social media, TikTok, YouTube, whatever, continuously throwing out misinformation for the audience to confuse us all. Because they know that everybody now is on an awakening mode. That they're researching everything now. They want to research now. So now now the authorities, the elites, are getting to understand that. So they just continuously throw out misinformation to confuse everybody. Unless you're pretty smart, you're going to work it out. But for the dumb, they believe in absolutely everything, don't they? So, been from the past and also more in the future to come, I'm sure there will be. So it seems that the elites are using these secret locations and secret underground cities, which are under the name of certain locations of Starbucks. My name's Electric Johnny Hatt. I'll speak to you all soon. Bye bye.